Everyone, it's Miss Rossi here, and today we're going to be talking about our Unit 8 statistics and our Day 2, and we're going to be talking today about things called box plots. All right, so box plots are a very creative name for this plot. They use a box, and the box is there to just show you the data. So what it's doing is it's trying to show you how the data is distributed, right? So like, is it close together in one spot? Is it farther away in another spot? Like, where is all the data grouped together, right? So think about how it's grouped or maybe how it's spread out. Okay, and then that's what we talk about when we mean distribution. All right, so this is a box plot that shows the number of pets, right? So notice that the axis down here is labeled, right? Where this axis here, a continuous line showing us the number of pets. Now, what's a little bit hard to see on your copy is where our whiskers are. Sometimes we call these box and whisker plots. But sometimes people just throw the whisker part out and it's a box plot. All right, so we have right here, we have this value and it's connected with our whisker. Shh, don't tell, right? And over here, I have another one. All right, so what this box plot is doing is it's showing the data broken up into 4 groups, right? So notice there's like 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, all right? Okay, so, I didn't want to get rid of that. All right, now to make these 4 groups, right? So what we do is we take all the data, right? We basically put it into 4 groups, even groups. And the first thing we do is we cut it in half, right? So this right here, that line right there, that's the halfway point, right? That's where I'm cutting the data. This right here is my median, right? It gives us the half, right? So then what we have here is we have the lowest, we have our highest, right? Sometimes we call these the min and the max. All right, and then this line here and this line here are what's breaking us into 4 groups, right? So 4 groups, quartiles, right? So this is our lower quartile, and this is our upper quartile. All right, so typically we refer to this as the min and the max. Call this the Q1, right? The first quartile. Now the median, right, is kind of like the second one. So we could call this Q2. We could call this also the second quartile. All right, and then over here we have our upper quartile or our third quartile, which a lot of times we'll call Q3. All right, now these numbers together, these 5 numbers, they're what we're going to use to make a box plot. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, all right, is we want to provide this picture of our data into our 4 intervals, right? Each then, right, if it's in 4 groups, is going to give 25% of the data. All right, so we have 20 students listed below, and luckily they're in order. All right, so that's really nice. So identify the lowest and the highest. All right, so my min, 53, my max is 73. Okay, and again, we're talking about heights in inches, right? So how tall are these people? All right, so my median. Okay, so my median is where I need to cut it in half. So if I have 20 students, let's think about that logically. I can break that into 2 groups of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. All right, so my median, right between 66 and 66, is 66. Okay, so now I have this lower half of data right here. And what I want to do is I want to find the median of that one. So now there's 10 values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here in the half. So my median of my lower half, my first quartile, 64 and a half. Okay, now I want the median of the upper half. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. My upper quartile, my Q3, 69.5. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to plot these numbers. All right, so these are heights, and that's in inches. All right, and what we want to do is we want to make sure we have a number line that goes from 53 to 73. So let's start at like 50. Let's say 55, 60, 65, 70, 75. That works pretty well. All right, and now I make a dot at each one of these locations. All right, so 53 gets a dot. All right, then, so this is my first dot. My second dot, right, 64.5. Okay, my third dot, my median, 66. My fourth dot, right here, 63. Oh, 69.5. Okay, there we go, right there. And then my fifth dot, 73. Okay, now I make my box, make my whiskers. All right, so now what this is showing me is that most of the data, 50% of the data, is clumped right here to here. Right, that gives me 50% of the data. Right, so we have most people, right, are kind of lying between these two numbers. Now, one thing that we want to consider sometimes is maybe there's some person here that's just really, really short, right? It might be an outlier. We don't know, right? It might be somebody who's just extremely short, or maybe this one, maybe that's an outlier, right? So we can tell that by looking at how long the whiskers are, right? But most of the people are gathered right here between 64 and a half inches and 69 and a half inches, right? So most people, right, are about 5'4"-ish to 5'9"-ish. Well, that kind of makes sense, right? A couple really small people, a couple tall people, maybe bringing up the average. Notice it's a little bit skewed here. If we were to kind of draw that, because it's like a chart, right? It's a little bit like this, right? So it would say like more tall people, right? Give that kind of hump over there. And we'd have to do a little bit more investigation to find out. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to take and, there's our 5-number summary I was just talking about there. All right, and we're going to use some data, and we're going to use the data from this class. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to use everybody in our group. All right, so I'm going to start with Alana. All right, Alana's got 6 letters in it. I've got Becca, we'll call her Rebecca. She's got 7 letters. We got Jared with 5, Bradley with 7, Miriam, 6, Brianna, also 6, Tyler's got 5, Carissa has 7, Shelby has 6, Samuel also has 6, and just for fun, I'm going to add myself in here. My full name is Christine, and Mrs. Rockwell, right? Mrs. has got 3 letters in there. All right, so we're going to go with Mrs. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to determine the 5-number summary. So this is a table that's a little bit different than the table that we had done before. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually enter this data into the calculator. So we're going to take this table and we're going to enter it in. So we've never done this before, or we haven't done a 2-column table yet. Okay, so we have a tally, and another word for a tally is a frequency. Right, it's how many there are. Okay, so we're going to go to the calculator. All right, we're going to go to Stat, Edit. Okay, remember we go up, hit Clear and Enter to get rid of the data. And now I'm going to add, I'm just going to put in the numbers that had, or the number of letters that was in our class. So we had 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And then in our second column, we've got 1. It was 1 3-letter name, Mrs. 2, 5, 3, and 1. I'm recording a video. Can you guys leave me alone for a minute? Why? I just said I'm recording a video. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Stat, and we're going to Calc. And this is still a one variable statistic. We're only talking about the number of letters in our name. So we have our list as L1, but what we want to do is we have a frequency list. So we're going to hit second L2, right down then the number 2. Now we're going to calculate, and we have the average here as 6.08, right? So the average number of letters in everybody's name in our class is about 6. I lost my pen. All right, now if we do know that we've entered this data correctly because we have that the N, the number of people in our class, is 12. Okay, we wanted that number to be 12. We have 12 people included. Now, if we go down, here is our 5-number summary. So our 5-number summary, right? We've got our minimum. I've got our first quartile, median, upper quartile, and maximum. Okay, so we can write all 5 of those values down. Okay, so our minimum was 3, first quartile, 5.5, 6, 7, and 9. And it's really nice. The calculator gives you that right in order. All right, so now we're going to make a box plot using those numbers below. All right, so this is number of letters. And we want to make a scale that goes from 3 to 9. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we put our dots in. So 3, 5.5, 6, 7, and 9. All right, so we're going to make a box here. All right, so now what this shows us is that we have most people right here. We have most people right in the middle, right? Most people had 5.5 to 7, right? That's 50% of the data. But there were some outliers, right? We had a 3 and we had a 9, someone with a very short name, someone with a very long name. And I think maybe you remember who those 2 people were. So another thing that we could do to describe this spread of data to look at the variability is look at what's called the standard deviation. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, scroll back up here, and I have 2 standard deviations. I have one that has SX and then one with a little sigma x. So we're going to use the one with the little sigma. That means the population standard deviation. So this we're going to say is about 1.4. Okay, and what the standard deviation shows us is the average amount. Nope, not amount. The data is spread apart. All right, now other things we may consider are the range. Now the range is what we're going to take, and we're going to do the maximum number minus the minimum number. Okay, so in this case, it would be 9 minus 3. So my range is 6. Now my interquartile range, right? The range of the quartiles. So this, I'm going to take the upper quartile. I'm going to subtract the lower quartile. So my IQR, in our case above, 7 minus 5.5. So my IQR is 1.5. So most of you have names that are about 5 to 7 long, right? And they're pretty close to each other, actually, with a 1.4 standard deviation. All right, well, stay tuned for part 2 of day 2 notes and hope to see you soon.